Tsepiso Makwetla winds it down on Africa World Hour, 9 to 10 p.m.
This week in Johannesburg, the 9th China-South Africa Trade and Investment Promotion Conference drew Chinese and South African business delegations in a bid to deepen ties and sign new deals. Among the outcomes, several memoranda of understanding between local firms and Chinese companies were signed. China is signaling accelerated zero tariff access to certain South African exports and fresh pledges of Chinese investment in mining, infrastructure and green industries. We joined now by one of the organizers, Binu Pillai, Chief Operating Officer at Meorient International Exhibition, to speak to us about the recently concluded conferences and, of course, the agreements. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us.
Good evening, everyone.
Mr. Pillai, can you hear us?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, now we can hear you. Thank you very much. So let's talk about the strategic objectives of the conference first before we talk to the deals that have been signed.
I think if I can probably highlight a couple of the main ones, we definitely wanted to deepen the business cooperation between South African and Chinese businesses. We also wanted to expand the investment by Chinese into the South African market. And obviously, we wanted to use this platform to build the trust between both the parties. So these were some of the key objectives what we were looking at. And if I look at the outcome, or if I can judge based on the outcome, the number of people who came in, the number of MOUs being signed, and also the feedback from both the sides, we had a great event in the last 3 days.
And given what is taking place in New York at the moment, we saw President Cyril Ramaphosa in conversation with the U.S. Chamber against the backdrop of very tenuous conversations with the U.S. government. How are you using this to your advantage, if not to further, but perhaps even rebalance the investment trade conversation with South Africa?
I think probably the current geopolitical situation probably created kind of an urgency for us to fast track some of the programs we were planning in the region, and also probably expand the scope. This is the 9th year we are doing this event in Joburg. So probably it used to be a traditional B2B exhibition format, but here this year we had 2 conferences along with it. One was a China-South Africa Trade and Investment Conference, which was partnered by the Embassy of China in South Africa and also the Ministry of Trade. And also we had the Ubuntu, the Smart City Conference. I think so the current situations probably prompted us to expand the scope.
And we know that the regulatory environment has often been one of the major conversations, and in some cases a bugbear for some investors. I mean, I'll use the Northwest as an example. Some have lamented the companies who have been coming their red tape. Some have lamented policy uncertainty. Some have spoken about the regulatory environment. So there are risks that are involved. On both sides, how were they able to circumvent this, South Africa, China, and which sectors are most primed for strengthening the bilateral relationships?
I think if you look at the sectors, general infrastructure, renewable energy, and probably mining, I would put these 3 on the top. But what was really surprising this year is we see a lot of interest in digital economy, in terms of green technology, and also e-commerce and logistics. And these were some of the sectors which got highlighted during these 3 days, which was these were the so-called non-traditional areas what we have seen support coming from.
All right. So can you expand a little bit more then on some of the MOUs that were signed, and what would be... Okay, go ahead.
I think we had about 28 of MOU signed in the last 3 days. I think there are quite a few discussions which are just starting. The connections have just been made, so I would say that they're very fresh. And also probably there are some discussions which are ongoing. But I would say that probably significantly what we have seen is there are a couple of them in the battery, electric battery, lithium battery. So this is very interesting, and also in food manufacturing we are seeing some interest, and also in mining. So these ones seems to be very promising, and I can say that there is some capital already being committed to these sectors.
Are you able to share how much? And when you say an e-commerce, are there particular projects that are already underway, especially from a Chinese perspective, that is bringing capacity to our shores? And also, there has often been a challenge of skills transfer where there has been an accusation that Chinese companies coming here with their own human resources, and there's very little in terms of passing on skills to South Africans so that they capacitate them, that should they move out, that they are able to continue with the projects.
I think probably, as you mentioned, like these were some of the concerns from the South African side in terms of technology transfer, in terms of training, and in terms of capital investment. These were some of the concerns. I think what we have done is we have effectively engaged the government from both the sides, because I think in the past there has been some regulatory obstacles what we faced. So we are trying not some of those, I would say that some of those gray areas not to happen this time around. So I think I would believe that that has been taken care of in those discussions 3 days.
And what other groundbreaking agreements came out of this conference?
I think other than this MOUs, probably, we have about 400 Chinese companies who participated, who are exhibiting their products at the show, and they manufacture themselves. We had about 22,000 visitors. I mean, this is a B2B show. So 22,000 visitors who participated, who visited the show. We also had about 740 matchmaking meetings which we organized during the show. So these are very strong indicators in terms of the interest from both the sides, and the prospects are very good for them to conclude deals or continue the cooperation in the next coming months.
And I want to look at particularly small to medium enterprises. And we often talk about a people-to-people cultural exchange, and that also extends to business. The way in which business is done in China is not the same way that is done in South Africa. So there can be an equal exchange of good practices there. What can be highlighted as those that would be very good key performance indicators of what would be acceptable for both to say it's beneficial, and this is why this conference is in its 9th iteration?
I think if you specifically talk about how we want to judge the outcome, or how we want to quantify the outcome, obviously we are looking at the number of MOUs signed. We will be looking at the total amount of investment which is made through the platform. We also will be looking at how many jobs have been created by some of these projects. And also, obviously, in terms of repeat participation, how many of these exhibitors or how many of the speakers and the visitors are going to come back to this event. These are some of the indicators what we will look at to evaluate the outcome.
All right, and thank you so much for speaking to us. Much appreciated. Speaking to us about the 9th China-South Africa conference that has just taken place. That is the Chief Operating Officer, Meorient International Exhibition, speaking to us about the various memoranda of agreements that's come out, or understanding that's come out of that summit in the sectors that will benefit both countries.